Mother Knows Death, starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria Q. Kane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we'll be talking about Billy Joel's brain disorder and why he had to cancel all of his concerts, super glue burns caused by a Temu product, a bizarre text stream between family members about burying dead children, a crypto investor who tortured a man for weeks, and some details of a really disturbing case of a woman whose vagina fell out. All that and more on today's episode. Let's start with Billy Joel. I love Billy Joel.
Have you ever seen him? I feel like that would be such a good concert.
No, I actually would. You know that I don't like music really.
We know it's been clearly established.
But I could listen to Billy Joel all the time because it's very calm and
because you're a boomer and it soothes you.
Yes. But that might be if somebody was like, "Oh, we can go see Billy Joel," that I would consider. Because I also like a lot of his songs. So you know what I mean? There's other people I could see live too, but older, like Motown or something like that. Nothing like.
That's how I felt about Elton John, and the tickets in Philly were $400 for the worst seat ever, and I'm just like, I'm sorry. It's just and you're like,
yeah, Elton John.
If this was 1975, that would be the best show you've ever seen in your life, but it's just not the same thing.
Yeah, and I just whatever. Anyway, so he canceled his concerts, and I mean, so something's wrong because that's probably a shit ton of money for all the people involved.
Yeah, and I forgot that he fell. Remember it came out that he fell earlier this year at one of his concerts, and then everybody was really worried. So I guess it was connected to this brain disorder he's saying he had. So can you explain what it is?
I'm not really familiar with it, honestly, but it's called normal pressure hydrocephalus. So hydrocephalus is when hydro means water, cephalus means brain. So it just means that there's extra fluid around the brain. So we normally have cerebral spinal fluid in our brain and around our spinal cord, and it just means that there is more production of it. And so they say that it's normal pressure because when they take it out, it doesn't seem to have an increased pressure, even though there's a lot more fluid in there. So it's a rare diagnosis, which is why I'm not really familiar with it. And it's also difficult to diagnose. So let me tell you some of the problems that people have. Hearing, vision issues, which is a definite problem if you're playing piano and you're doing a concert. Balance, so that would explain why he fell. Sometimes you could have certain things that could be mistaken for Parkinson's or Alzheimer's, memory problems, cognitive impairment, trouble walking, things like that. So sometimes when people present with those symptoms, they show up and they think that maybe they're having that just because this one is more of a rare thing. But what I am familiar with is when some people have cases of hydrocephalus, they put in what's called a peritoneal shunt. So they put, it's crazy. We used to get them in surgical pathology all the time when they were taking them out or replacing them. But they put this really thin tube that accesses the fluid in the brain, and it goes all the way through your body into your abdominal cavity and just lets all that extra fluid drain right into your abdominal cavity where it gets absorbed.
Yeah, so he had to cancel all his upcoming shows for the summer. It's unclear if he's going to perform ever again, so your chance to see him might not be looking that good. But it seems like this has a pretty good chance to improve symptoms if you do certain procedures or certain treatments.
Yeah, but I don't know if so if you have it, you can get this surgery done, but sometimes if you were misdiagnosed for a while and you've had it, you can't reverse some of the problems that it's making. So he might not really be a candidate for it. He might have already had the surgery. We don't know. One interesting thing is that they say a person that has this walks like you would walk on a boat. It's interesting, right? They say with your body bent forward, your legs held wide apart, and feet moving as if they were glued to the deck.
Is that how people walk on boats? I'm having a hard time picturing this.
Not like on a cruise ship. We shouldn't see people like that. But if you're on a boat that's I
think we're gonna see
a small boat that you could feel moving and stuff like that, then it's like you're trying to brace yourself from falling. So you just stand in a certain kind of position, like a
I think
little fishing boat or something.
I think we're gonna see a lot of things we're not prepared to see on the cruise ships. Just prepare.
Don't worry, guys. We'll document all of it.
Oh, we will for sure.
We're gonna
But
end up like down in the morgue and interviewing people there or something.
well, I saw where the medical center was on the
Yeah, we
map.
gotta go. I'll
So
just
I
like punch you in the face or something, so we have an excuse that you need medical treatment.
You know, Mom's gonna fall in the first 5 hours we're on the boat with this dumb flip flop she wears. So
She just, I don't even want to talk about my mother and her shoes.
not even
She,
flip flops.
she complains all the time that her feet hurt, and she wears like the shittiest things ever all the time, like heels, twist her ankle. Like it's just you. If you heard a person say that their feet hurt, and then they showed up at your house wearing like high heel mules, would you be like? Because that's literally what happens. I have no sympathy. Like I'm just like, yeah, that's why your feet hurt. Because you're wearing high heel mules. Like that's like if problem solved. I just diagnosed you and gave you a solution in 2 seconds.
We should take bets on who's going to the medical center first out of like all 17 of us. That will be the fun part.
We're gonna have to induce a fake injury if not. So all right. So speaking of mom, we could also talk about Timu because I think that most people that are my age probably have parents that are in their 60s or 70s and have moved on from Home Shopping Network to Timu.
Or a brother that has moved on to Timu because Louis was having like a serious problem with it for a second.
What was he ordering?
Are you serious? You don't know this? He was like ordering all these sunglasses and like rubber slides and shorts and like all this stuff.
Oh no, I have to have an intervention. This is how we knew my mom had a problem because the last thing that she ordered or recent is she ordered like those ski poles to go walking on the walking trail behind her house.
We're
Like, I'm not-
definitely getting an angry text after this comes out.
Well, like, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, I returned them. They didn't work out." And I was like, "But you thought they would." That's what's alarming. Is that you thought there was a moment in your life where you thought that was a good idea. So now you're in a certain category. So this is a conversation I've had with my mom because she's constantly coming over and giving the kids like, I got you this lip gloss. I got you this. I got you that. And I'm like, Mom, don't buy my kids that makeup bullshit from Temu and give it to them because I don't want any kind of chemicals or anything there from Temu because I don't believe they're tested, even though the company says they are and stuff. I wouldn't trust putting anything like that. Honestly, like the clothes, we've had articles about the clothes having chemicals on them that are giving people problems too. But at least you could wash them and stuff. But like cosmetic stuff, no way. They have, the kids went on, not that one of the other ones, Shein or one of those places, and they're showing me like, look, you could get this, that cream that all the girls like, that Sol de Janeiro stuff. You know what I'm talking about? It smells like suntan lotion or whatever. Mm-hmm. They're like, you can get this on Shein, and I'm like, no, that's fake. And they're like, but like, listen, Shein don't give a shit. They make the same label and everything. There's like all these brands, all the girls like the clothes and this and that, and there's this brand called White Fox or something like that, and they do the same exact shirt and it says WHTE Fox with the same font and the same color, everything. There's like an I missing, and that's
the copyright is unbelievable.
It's outrageous, and like the kids don't even notice it at first, and I'm like, nah, all this shit is fake. You don't want this. So anyway, so this kid gets the mom gets the kid fake nails and glue from Temu, for Christmas, and the kids put it on the nails. Like, this is like a typical thing you would see happen. And the glue got on her hands somehow. It like spilled out onto her hands, and it got bad from there.
Yeah, so this poor little 12-year-old girl, all I'm thinking about is Lillian, of course, because the girls do their nails all the time. She's just sitting there doing her nails. The bottle just tips over and spills on her skin. She starts having this immediate burning sensation. So at first her mom thinks it's just like not that big of a deal. She had some little blisters, sends her on her way, and then it ended up being so much worse. So she ended up having these horrific burns on her hands, and they were saying that she'll always have these scars. She might never regain feeling in her hands, and they had to do what? A skin graft to fix it?
Yeah, they had to take skin from her leg and graft it to her hands. So I will say that this might not be a Timu specific situation because any super glue could hurt you, right? I when the kids want to have those fake nails, like I would never let them put the glue on by themselves because that would I just don't think that they should be touching glue. And the mom did complain to Timu, and the Timu said to them, like, your kids shouldn't be touching this. And I kind of honestly, like, I agree with that. Like,
Yeah, but
kids
like
shouldn't be touching nail glue.
it's for going on your fingernails, which is so close to your skin. The glue is going to make some type of contact with your skin.
Yeah, but like the thing is that this cyanoacrylate is the chemical that's in this nail glue, right? And it causes an exothermic reaction whenever it's bonding, it gets hot. And sometimes you could actually feel that happening when it goes on, right? Now, there's lots of documented cases of this happening with like non-Timu glue because especially like if a kid is playing with that glue, like let's say for example, the girls are gluing on the nails and it drops onto their jeans or their pants that they're wearing or sweatpants or anything and then it goes through their skin. Like when that glue hits fabric like cotton and stuff, it gets even hotter and the potential for burns is even more likely. You can get glue in your eye. We've had cases in the grocery room of people getting super glue in their eye, both usually accidentally. Remember the one case was the daycare worker put the drops thought they were putting eye drops in the baby's eye and put
Ugh.
the nail glue in the baby's eye.
Yeah.
So there it's obviously like accidental cases or whatever, but like I don't know. I just think that there's like really bad things that could happen with that particular chemical. So I don't think it's a problem if you want to glue nails on the kids, but I think like an adult should do it just because you know, it's just like a little bit of a stronger chemical. But yeah, this kid had to get a skin graft, which is no joke. And now I mean, your hands are a very sensitive part of your body, and um, it's sad for her. And other cases that I've come across, I'm gonna post some of them in the grocery room this week of kids that have severe burns from having access to nail glue. They typically result in full thickness burns, and they have to get a skin graft. It's terrible.
This episode is brought to you by the Gross Room.
So, like I told you guys on yesterday's episode, this week's celebrity death dissection or non-death dissection is on me about my skin cancer journey. And also, we talk about some other cases where these two cases, I don't know if you saw that what I posted this weekend, Ray, in the grocery room, but they're the most botched cases of death investigation I may have seen. I don't even know. Like, but they're kind of funny in a way or just weird. I don't know. But you got to check those two cases out because they're unbelievable. I can't even tell you about them because you wouldn't believe me. We also have a case of a guy who was horseback riding and one of his testicles fell out of his scrotum. So that's an interesting one, too. You know, just popped right
happened.
out.
Oh my God.
So
All right.
check
Well,
that out.
yeah, definitely check that out. Head over to thegrossroom.com now. So, a Walmart Santa Claus is in court after being charged with the murder of his 2 children, and evidence showed that he so excitingly texted his family about burying the kids.
All right. Before we even talk about this story, could we just talk about Santa Claus?
Like, what about it?
I don't. The older I get, the more I'm like, I'm not into the kids in the Santa Claus situation.
Well, get over it because when you're a grandmother, it's your time to help me out all those nights that I've helped
I don't
you out
mean
with the
no, I
kids.
don't mean that. I don't mean Santa like Christmas presents and stuff. No, I'm not talking about that. Santa Claus is awesome, and
You mean
kids
like
should,
mall Santas?
I mean like kids sitting on Santa Claus, fake Santa Claus, not fake. Any Santa Claus is fake, I guess. Kids sitting on Santa's lap and people that are Santas. And I know that we know one.
Well, I was going to say, typically I agree with you because I think everybody's a predator. But
You've always thought that since you were a child. Like,
well,
everybody.
don't let me watch To Catch a Predator when I'm like 6 years old. I don't know what to tell you. Of course, that's going to be in my mind. So
you were like 10. You weren't 6. Okay, continue.
That's not really much better. So, but we know a Santa. It's my husband's uncle, and he is genuinely the nicest person of all time. So when I think of somebody like him, I'm like, of course there should be Santas because he's like genuinely such a nice, jolly man. But
Yes.
there's
But,
also
like,
problematic people.
every single time I've been going recently, like, I'm staring at these dudes and I'm like, "What is their story? Like, why do they wanna do this for a living? Why do they enjoy children sitting on their lap?" Like, I don't know, I don't I don't like it, and the past couple years, like, I've just kinda been like, "You know what? Like, we don't have to do that if you don't want to." I feel like a lot of parents, like, force their kids to do it for themselves because kids typically, like, don't really necessarily like it. They like to, like, go to the mall and look at Santa from afar, but they don't actually wanna, like, interact with them. Um,
Well, hopefully, since I got the Connect, I don't gotta go to the mall
yeah,
and do
just
the
be like, "Can you
pictures.
just, like, come over and whatever?" But so, like, I'm already, like, sus of this guy because he's a Santa Claus at Walmart.
All right. Well, he killed both of his kids when they were both 14 years old. So it was a little confusing. So when his son was 14 in 2016, he ended up killing him. They just found the kid's bones. Cause of death is undetermined. And then in 2018, he starved his 14-year-old daughter to death. And they're going through all the evidence in this trial, and they found so not only is this Santa involved in this, but his girlfriend, his girlfriend's mother, and that woman's boyfriend. So we were just talking last week how it's obviously disturbing when one person is committing crimes like this, but then when you get like a group of people involved, what is happening?
Yeah, and this guy's, like, going and, like, letting little kids sit on his lap and smiling when he's at home, starving his child to death, and so he had a 14-year-old he killed and went missing, and, like, nobody, like,
So it seems like nobody knew the boy went missing or they were able to cover up enough for it in 2016. But then when the girl went missing in 2018, that's when somebody reported them and they went and checked the property and then they ended up finding the bodies. But so they're going through the evidence for this
I
case.
just can't wrap my mind around children that are missing and people don't know that they're missing. I just can't. Like, it's that makes it even more sad because you're like, there's no adult. Well, I guess there was some adults around that knew it was happening, but
Yeah.
you're like, there's no one around this child that loves this child enough to, like, care that they're missing. It's just so sad.
Well, it is sad because their biological mother was reportedly a homeless person. And then you have this guy who's clearly an abuser. And then he's somehow connected to these three other people that are equally as evil as him. So they're going through all this evidence in the trial. And he texted his wife's mother saying, almost done burying Mary. And then she replied, cool, how deep? What the
And she
fuck
wrote
is wrong
cool
with
with an exclamation point. Like,
Yeah. There's
yeah,
nothing
you're like,
cool about this.
that is, like, so bizarre, those text messages. It's also weird that people commit crimes are, like, writing text messages back and forth to each other. Like, do they not listen to our show? I don't know.
Well, I was saying this a lot with the Lori Vallow case because there was so much via text that they were able to like pinpoint basically when the kids were killed because of things they were saying in their locations and photos they were taking. And I don't know if people I feel like maybe like in her case she's such a narcissist that she really thinks she won't be caught and therefore it won't end up being a problem. And I wonder if that goes through a lot of people's minds that they genuinely believe they won't be caught and it's not going to come up and be an issue, or if they're just not thinking about it.
Yeah, that's possible.
I don't know. It's very bizarre thing to do, but obviously these people are horrible people and they all suck and they all got charged. So at least there's going to be some justice in this case.
All right, let's talk. This next case is so disturbing as well.
So earlier this month, this tourist from Italy went over this guy's house in New York City over a Bitcoin exchange, but now the homeowner's been arrested after he allegedly kidnapped and tortured the tourist for weeks.
I just, like, I still don't understand the Bitcoin situation. Like,
I can't
It's-
possibly explain it because I don't understand it and I don't need people yelling at us that we don't understand it.
well,
so-
I'm not even going to try because I don't even understand. I don't even understand what it is. But whatever happened, like, Bitcoin or not, this guy kind of kidnapped this guy and tied him up and tortured him for several weeks, and he was able to finally escape and flag down a nearby traffic person who was able to call 911, and the investigators were just shocked when they heard what was going on with him.
Yeah, so he told police that he escaped after agreeing to give his Bitcoin password to the guy that abducted him. And when the guy went to go get his laptop, that's when the victim was able to leave the home and track down the traffic cop that was able to call the police. So then he told investigators that he was shocked with an electrical wire, his leg was cut with a saw, and he was forced to smoke crack cocaine. And then they also recovered some really disturbing evidence at the scene, which was chicken wire, ballistic helmets, body armor, night vision goggles, t-shirts, pictures of the victim with the crack cocaine pipe in his mouth, and Polaroids with a firearm pointed at the victim's head.
Okay, they went out of their way to have T-shirts printed with his face on it.
Yeah.
Like that's
And, like,
so weird.
but who printed the t-shirts? Like, did they make them on their Cricut, or like did they have
That's
them
what I'm
made
saying.
at a
Like,
facility?
I don't know. It's so weird. So listen, this story gets even weirder because so at some part of the story, it said that there were 2 butlers at the residence when this happened. So I was like, butlers? What? So I look up the address, which was 38 Prince Street in Soho, right?
Well, that's a really nice neighborhood, so I imagine the house is
The
super
house,
nice.
so it's not for sale right now, but on Zillow, this estimate is $23 million for this house. 8 bedrooms, 10 baths, 10,000 square feet. Like, that is not what I would be thinking in a situation like this. And a side note, too, let me just tell you what the estimated mortgage payment is for that house.
Well, they said the guy was paying $30,000 to $40,000 a month in rent.
Yeah, because this one's saying the estimated mortgage payment is $153,883 a month.
That's insane.
Which is insane, but $30,000 a month is also insane.
Well, of course, I mean, in New York, that's probably considered a steal for a property like that. But this 37-year-old crypto investor and his 24-year-old assistant were both arrested for this case. I am curious now that you're talking about the butlers. Like, where were they? Did they really not notice
It's like a
anything?
Diddy situation.
Yeah, it is really bizarre. And like, so I guess the whole motive was they were trying to steal Bitcoin from the victim. But he was there for weeks. I don't know. This is really disturbing to think about somebody doing this. And obviously, this person had money in some capacity if they were paying rent on this place. And people in the neighborhood were shocked, of course, because it's a pretty nice neighborhood. But at the same time, it's naive in New York. Like, crazy shit happens anywhere you live.
I just don't really understand what was happening. Like, they were trying to steal money from him. Is that what was happening?
Yeah, they were trying to steal Bitcoin from him.
So the only reason they were torturing him is because they wanted his password and then he finally gave it up?
Well, I would say that's probably not the only reason. It has to be more involved than that. Because why wouldn't he just give up the password after like a couple hours if that was the case
And
instead
like
of weeks?
go outside and like change it back or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the whole
I don't
thing
know.
seems-
Yeah. Cuz like he was I don't know. Just and why crack? Like I don't know. The whole thing is it's a weird story.
Sometimes
Especially
you
the
just hear,
t-shirts.
well, you just hear like it's like Diddy and Jeffrey Epstein. You just hear of these mega rich people doing this really weird shit, and you're like, are you that bored? You can't do anything else with your time other than like torture and kidnap people. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, it really is.
All right, so this woman wrote an article for the Times explaining that after giving birth, her midwife was tying her back up when suddenly the worst thing she could imagine happened to her. Her vagina fell out.
All right, so I guess she had her second kid and she tore a little bit after she gave birth and they were sewing her back up down there. And she said whenever she gives birth, so this is the second time she's giving birth, she started vomiting violently afterwards, which I don't really know what that's about. But like I was telling you especially if you give, well, she said she had an epidural, so I don't really know why that happens. And if anyone, I know my friend Jamie listens sometimes and she delivers babies a lot. So if that's a thing, I don't know. But the doctor's like in between her legs sewing her crotch up and she says, I have to throw up. And she gets the pan and she starts throwing up. And you know, when you throw up, it's like pretty violent on your body. Like, you're kind of convulsing and you can't control it sometimes. And all of a sudden the doctor looked up at her and was like, your vagina fell out. And she didn't really understand what that meant. And there was this whole weird period where she said the doctor had to push it back in. And then she ran out of the room and a surgeon came in and looked and was just like, yeah, your vaginal wall caved in and it might not ever happen again. Because she was just like, well, what do I do in this situation? And he was just kind of like, don't overexert yourself. And like, it might not ever happen again. And then 6 weeks later, she was saying it was like the day before she was going back for her checkup after she had the baby. She said she was just walking and put her leg up onto a curb, and then all of a sudden that shift just made it happen again. And she said that she felt this like cold, like clammy thing pressing against her underwear in between her
Ew.
legs, and like a gelatinous mass, she called it, which sounds, I mean, it's pretty accurate because
A
I've seen this
gelatinous
before.
mass. That's
Yeah.
reminding me of that time you said necrotic slop.
And she just said she had a horrible tugging sensation in her abdomen, and since she was going to the gynecologist the next day, she showed the gynecologist for the checkup, and the doctor was like, "Oh, you like this is a typical story of like again, this is like the theme of this show that women getting blown off, right?" The doctor was like, "Oh, you must have overexerted yourself." And she's like, "Well, I just kind of put my leg up on a curb to walk. I wouldn't consider that to be overexerting myself." Plus, she has 2 little kids at this point now, So they said they referred her to a gynecologist and they said, "Have you ever done Kegel floor exercises?" So she started doing that. And like, I don't know, like if you're having a problem like that, I don't think at this point that is going to help. Then she said she even got that LV trainer thing. So remember we talked about that a while ago on Mother Knows Death about the
Mhm.
vaginal video game. That's like
Yeah.
a little egg-shaped dildo that you put in your vag and like play video games with it, and it's letting you know that you're definitely doing a good job with your Kegel exercises. But she was saying she had like all these problems, like it wouldn't recognize the device, and then she would be all the way through a game and then it would say like she wasn't doing good and stuff like that. So anyway, she's trying to get it addressed now, and the doctors are blowing her off essentially. So now it's been 6 months and she wants to have sex with her husband, which I think is crazy that this is a concern for her, that she's had to wait even 6 months to have sex with her husband, right? And she said at first they're having sex, and then all of a sudden she said that they felt like this like wet gush of like she said it was similar to when she had a kid, and like her water broke, right? So they turned on the light and thought that he, both of them were going to be covered in blood, and it was like, thankfully it wasn't blood, but he was covered in pee, and so was she. There was like pee all over the place, right? And she's like, "Oh, cool, what's that?" And he saw something, like he was like disturbed. Her husband was disturbed looking, and he was like looking at her vagina, and she said that it looked like a penis was like sticking out of her vagina. And she figured out that it was probably like her bladder or something like that. Like all of her pelvic organs were like coming out of her vaginal opening. So I guess this is one of the things that we could talk about with like, because this is happening in the UK, and I guess they have public doctors. And then she finally decided she was going to visit a private doctor. And so she made up this appointment and everything. And then they said to her, okay, well, at least they addressed it. And they said, okay, you can get this thing called a pessary, which they stick up inside there. It's like a plug almost. They stick up inside the vagina and kind of push it back up, and it like keeps it in place.
Okay.
Or you could get surgery. And she was just trying to get some answers because some people say pessary is bad, some people say surgery is bad, and she was just trying to figure out like what to do in case she wanted to have more kids or whatever, because a lot of the people were telling her like, oh, you shouldn't have more kids. And the reason is because when you have, the older you get and the more children you have, it just weakens the muscles down there for certain people. It doesn't happen to everyone, but I think any person that's my age that's had a couple kids vaginally can be like, yeah, I was just talking to one of my friends about that this weekend. Like I recently had went to the trampoline park with my kids, and like I jump on the trampoline and it's like, oh, I peed myself. I can't do that anymore. Like it was that, you know what I mean? Like stuff you just don't realize that you don't have control over anymore. But when you look at a skeleton, for example, you see that giant hole in between where a baby's head would fit through in a female skeleton, right? So there has to be something that holds all those organs in because of gravity. Like they just typically want to fall down. So you have these muscles that go across it. They're almost kind of like a basket interweaving across the bottom, but they're holding your organs in. So they have like a very serious responsibility. And if they're not strong, they could become weak. And when they become weak, those organs start falling out of the hole of your skeleton. And that's basically, your uterus comes out through your vagina, but other things could come along for the ride, I like to say, like the bladder that's attached to the front of the uterus and the rectum that's attached to the back of the uterus, so they can all start falling out. And it's a really disturbing thing to see if you're a woman, but it's also just uncomfortable. A lot of pressure, pain. Just think about this. Like, you're a younger woman, just had a kid, you want to have sex with your husband. Like, this is what you have to think about now. He's traumatized because he saw some weird thing coming out of your badge. Like, it's just terrible. So she went to see this specialist that was supposed to talk to her about surgery. And he was like, "Oh, good news. You're a candidate for surgery." And then he said, "Yeah, I think you should get a labiaplasty. Sometimes when you have vaginal childbirth, it stretches out your labia and it gets a little long. I'm not saying that yours are that bad, but they could be fixed." And she's just like, "What the fuck? I just want you to fix my uterus. I didn't ask you about my labia." And that's kind
Yeah.
of where it stands. And she's just like, "You know what? Like, I'm done here. I'm not dealing with this anymore." And I mean, she's eventually probably going to get surgery for this because she can't live like this. That's insane.
Well, it's ridiculous to be blown off all this time. You're like really being proactive about it, and then for finally the person that takes you seriously is like, "Well, while we're down there, do you want some plastic surgery?" Like, f off, dude.
Yeah, but not even like, it wasn't like, "Oh, let's do your hysterectomy and then do the labiaplasty." It was like, you don't need a hysterectomy, but you should fix these labia." Like, it was like an either or situation. And that's just so insulting that I don't know. And I don't know how, like, things are done in the UK, because in US in the pathology lab, like, we get uterine prolapse all the time as a specimen. So it's done here. Like, people don't have a problem with it.
Well, one thing I took from the article that was really interesting is she was saying it all could have been prevented if I had a C-section, but apparently you can't get elective C-sections with this healthcare system.
Oh, that's interesting. See, like, if you seriously have a problem with prolapse, then I don't see a C-section as being elective.
Yeah, but I think, like,
But they're
she
saying
seemed to
unless
say
it's an
she even
emergency.
suggested to the midwife because of her first trauma with her first childbirth, and they were like, "Well, why would you want to do that?" Like, they
Well,
advise against it.
listen, I think that they overdo it here, so I don't necessarily have a problem with it, because there's way too many people getting C-sections that shouldn't be, and the risks associated with that are so much greater than vaginal childbirth. So I could see why. I don't know if they need to be that strict about it, because I do think she has a medical problem that would indicate that she should be a candidate for it. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a concern for sure. But I mean, people get it just because they just don't want. There's all different reasons why people get it, and it's a major surgery. It's a very major surgery that people don't really think about.
Yeah, so where she stands right now is she said she has good days and she has bad days, and that she's hopeful that outcomes will have improved by the time she might need surgery. So
I feel like she should get the pessary at least, because I'm pretty. I don't know.
well, it's
What the
hard when
deal
you
is
have
with
one
putting
person
that
telling
in.
you to get it and then another doctor telling you not to do it. So, like, she has one person telling her one thing and one person telling her another. Like, it just seems like a huge mess.
Yeah, it
Also,
does.
typical women getting blown off for major issues. Like, we can't talk about
Well,
it enough.
and if you say this out loud, you're like, this woman never knows when her vag and her uterus is going to start coming out of her vagina. Like, why is that not a huge concern for people when you're just at a party and it happens, or something like that? Like, because it's not only kind of gross and disturbing, but it's physically uncomfortable. Why is that not like an emergency situation for these doctors when they hear that this is happening, especially when you're not an old person, you're still trying to have sex and stuff. It's just weird to me that they're like, "Yeah, whatever." Like, I don't know. It's just so weird.
No, it is. Well, thank you guys so much. Please head over to Apple or Spotify and leave us a review. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have a story for us, please submit it to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
See you tomorrow. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.